Hello again and welcome back to the channel. Due to the pressures of work, I have been unable to do regular videos here. However, I am hoping to upload more regular content for the next few months. Dim-mak is the art of striking cavity points in combat for debilitating or lethal effect. Sometimes referred to as pressure points, probably due to the widely known practice of acupressure and shiatsu, which uses some of these points as a therapy. Pressure can be applied to cavity points by pressing, squeezing or striking in order to heal or harm. When it is to do harm, it is called dim-mak. This video is going to focus on what you can do to ameliorate the damage done by striking cavity points. I will record a separate video on pressure points for health in the near future. To begin with, I want to make it absolutely clear that this video is not going to be informing the general public on how to use cavity points in fighting. The obvious reason for this is because such information can lead to serious consequences, and a cavalier attitude to the potential harm that can be done is a recipe for disaster for you and the unwitting victim. Also, I have no control over who sees my videos and what they use the information for, and I think a more cautious approach to potentially dangerous material should be practiced in the wider video community. Additionally, just buying an acupuncture book and learning a number of points and attempting to strike them in combat is not dim-mak. It is clear to any student of traditional Chinese medicine and or cavity points in martial arts when this is the case. There are plenty of people that have obviously done this with varying degrees of success, and still this is not dim-mak. I say this for the same reason I gave the warning before, which again is because it can have serious intended or unintended consequences. Furthermore, those consequences can come back on you via the law of the land where you live.
To a fight, I accidentally kill you. I go to jail.
Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter.
As a side note, holistic medicines recognize everyone is different, and this is true across all things, including cavity points. So be aware, there are some people that do not react when cavity points are pressed. This is actually due to an imbalance in the body and can be rectified using a few acupuncture needles in certain points. However, this lack of reaction does not render them immune to point striking. They are just as vulnerable as anybody else to an actual attack, but it does make pressure point training with them much more interesting and a nice challenge. If we pose the question, what value is dim-mak in this modern world? The honest answer is somewhere on a scale between not necessarily that much to uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that, depending on what points we're talking about. For instance, many of the cavity points are either very obvious and therefore easily and well defended. For example, that would be a vulnerability such as the eyes. Although not a dim-mak point as such, they are an area that is very vulnerable, would have devastating effect on the opponent, and therefore a striking area banned in all fighting sports. The more esoteric the points are, the harder they are to attack effectively in a serious fight. Such points require precision, power, correct angle, and the correct amount of penetration to produce the desired result. All of this at high speed in an ever-changing chaotic melee. Add to that the nullifying effect of heavy clothing and other unknown factors, such as physical conditioning, that affect the efficacy of cavity point strikes. Just a couple of factors that may help you understand that dim-mak may not be that useful other than as an exercise in tradition. For example, the solar plexus, the liver, or the kidneys. A good strike to any one of these and many others will give you the results you are looking for. On top of that, obviously, anywhere that a person is struck on the body, meridians and points are located in and around that spot. In which case, does it matter that there are cavity points in the area? On the whole, no. You would drop your opponent anyway without such knowledge. However, that doesn't rule out a cavity point being accidentally struck and activated with all the negative effects that goes with it. The problem is that the cavity points don't need a seriously hard blow to get significant effects, and that's where the real issues begin. Accidents happen, especially when training in dim mak, yet can happen regardless. Therefore, understanding the signs and symptoms to look out for is really important. From a mild or light attack, look out for feeling nauseous, suddenly feeling cold and clammy, cold sweating, or a sudden hot flush, and or feeling dizzy, or a desire to sit down and rest for feeling unwell. Moderate attacks have similar symptoms to the light attack. However, the symptoms come on quicker and are more severe. With all moderate and heavy strikes, local bruising and pain go with them. Also, sudden onset nausea leading to vomiting, colour draining from the face, a sudden need to sit down and often literally sitting down straight where they are at, though they're not unconscious at the time, and also a possible fainting where they will be unconscious. Depending on where they are struck, some points can lead to a loss of vision. More often than not, this is temporary. Hard blows to cavity points have serious effects. These range from deep unconsciousness, severe pain and swelling, damage to internal organs, blockages to energy flows in meridians, and long-lasting damage to the body, including death. A word to the wise. People experience shock in many ways. If you have just hurt your friend and training partner, you will most likely both be in a state of shock to one extent or another. The person hurt will naturally want to be as far away from the person that hurt them as is possible, no matter how good friends you are. The training partner often wants to help their injured friend, moving towards them, making the injured party move away, and so on and so forth, leading to a comical situation of two people running in circles. These are all natural human reactions, and as long as you understand them, they can be dealt with easier. This is another reason why it is a good idea to have someone else, not just the two of you, around at the time when you are training. The injured party will appreciate and trust a third party easier. Also, said third party are likely to be thinking clearer than either of the other two, due to the aforementioned shock. Remedies start with inquiries. If they haven't already, sit them down. Potentially even lie them down. Communication is the start of doing the right treatment, and it's important to notice from any questions if they answer in a timely manner or are they delayed, as this will be one of the first signs of concussion. Inquire as to how they are feeling. Do they have any pain anywhere? Locate it and look for bruising. Look to their face to see if they are lacking colour in the face. In people with darker complexions, this is more of a grey colour, but still visible. Unlike bruising, which may be much harder to spot, but appears as a darker coloration in very specific areas, and obviously there will be pain when touched. Is the person dizzy? Is their vision clear or not? Do they feel hot or cold? All of these observations and questions tell you more about the person and informs you of how seriously hurt they are, and what steps you need to start taking in order to help them. For bruises, muscle damage, sprains, strains and other soft tissue injuries, you should apply Dit Darjao immediately, but try to avoid abrasions as this will sting. In areas of deep tissue injury, a hot poultice of grated ginger or powdered ginger can be applied. This is for deep bruising, muscle damage, aches, sprains, strains and other soft tissue injuries. I prefer not to use ice on anything except in your drinks in a very hot summer. Ice causes vasoconstriction, but actually you need the blood supply through to help heal the wound. So ice is only for professional sports people who have a soft tissue injury, causes a swelling like a sprained ankle, and they need to carry on. For nausea, you can use Jieshi, stomach 41 on the stomach meridian. This is in the front of the ankle, midpoint of the transverse crease in the depression between the tendons in line with the second toe. For dizziness and nausea, you can use Neiguan, which is pericardium 6. This is on the inside of the wrist, roughly 2 inches up from the crease in the midline between the tendons. If the person is feeling faint, using the knuckle of your index finger on the point renjong, do 26 on the do channel or governing vessel, press hard in the middle of the philtrum. This is the vertical groove of the upper lip. Do so for a few seconds at a time until they come back to full consciousness. If the bruising is severe and deep, with potentially internal bruising, administer Yunnan Baiyao. The capsules are easiest. Providing the patient has no broken bones, one can massage around the area or point struck to help alleviate the adverse effects. Massage is a useful way to relax the muscle and return blood flow to the areas struck. Some knowledge of acupressure points for health is useful here, but the points will also reveal themselves by being sore points distal from the area struck. Hard strikes to certain areas can have irreparable damage, leading to serious long-term injury or death, from which there is obviously no recovery. For more serious blows where the person is unconscious, immediately check their ABCs, airway, breathing and circulation. Put them in the recovery position, but not if there is a suspected spinal injury, and call for medical assistance. Depending on your geographical location worldwide, this could be anything from calling an ambulance to reaching out to a local medical centre. I will add 2 links in the description below to 2 videos that will help you with this, and my earlier video on martial arts injuries, prevention and advice is useful here too.
How to put someone in the recovery position. If a person is unconscious but is breathing and has no other life-threatening conditions, they should be placed in the recovery position. First, remove any obstacles, like their glasses. Then, with the person lying on their back, kneel on the floor at their side. Place the arm nearest to you at a right angle to their body with their hand upwards towards their head. Tuck the other hand under the side of their head so that the back of their hand is touching their cheek. Bend the knee furthest from you to a right angle. Now carefully roll the person onto their side by pulling on the bent knee. The top arm should be supporting the head and the bottom arm will stop you rolling them too far. Open their airway by gently tilting their head back and lifting their chin and check that nothing is blocking their airway. Finally, stay with the person and monitor their condition until help arrives.
Following any injury, no matter how insignificant it may seem, always seek medical advice. See your doctor, especially if you've had concussion or if other symptoms persist. However, some symptoms can creep up on you and ambush you without realizing how serious they are. The best example of this is internal bleeding, where one feels a bit bruised and maybe a little bit uncomfortable. The abdomen swells slightly and then a bit more and then more until the abdomen is really tight and it's very uncomfortable. This is extremely serious and immediate medical attention must be sought. Do not walk, do not drive. Someone else needs to take you to the hospital. The movement of the muscles will just push more and more blood out quicker. For example, a strike to the torso in the right area can rupture the spleen and a person can bleed to death. Internal bleeding is difficult to spot at the best of times, and by the time it is noted by those unaware of its symptoms, it is already too late. Give yourself time to heal from all injuries. That includes concussion, as this has an accumulative effect on the brain. Pause for thought. The person struck could be on one or a number of medical pills for various health conditions, for example, blood thinners or high blood pressure tablets. This can have a profound effect on the health of the person concerned and their health situation in conjunction with the results of the strike to their pressure point. So bear this in mind when assessing their recovery or continued ill effects. I feel it's important to point out that there are people currently languishing in prison around the world who got into a fight on a night out, maybe punched somebody only once, only to wake up on a Monday morning with the police breaking down their door because the person they hit died from their altercation and they went down for manslaughter.
In front of all my friends. But my hands are registered as lethal weapons. That means we get into a fight, I accidentally kill you, I go to jail.
Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter. And I think
Accidents happen, but they can have serious consequences. Be wise, be safe, and take care of yourself and your martial brothers and sisters. If you have not already, why not subscribe to the channel? Press the like button and share our content with your friends and martial community. If you would like to support the channel, our Patreon and Ko-fi links will be in the chat below. Take care and good luck with your training. An example of my own experience with strikes to pressure points is, whilst training in a park one time with my sifu and other students, we were all exploring different techniques and ways to achieve them. Someone asked about how certain throws could be done through different attacks. I was the crash test dummy for this one, and my sifu had shown a few different techniques. Of course, someone had to ask to see another one. I threw out a straight punch, and we had a clash of elbow on elbow, but his elbow caught me on a point between my bones. That was it. I immediately felt nauseous. I felt the colour drain from my face and my energy sink into my boots. Wobbly standing was about all I could do. My arms dropped to my sides and I began to cold sweat. My sifu hadn't noticed and was telling me to punch again, getting frustrated that I hadn't immediately done it. He was focused on teaching. However, when I said I couldn't, it was then that he noticed how ill I looked and immediately set about bringing me back to positive health, which took around 10 minutes before I felt completely well again.